up, guys? What is up? Come on, turn down. Sorry, guys. I forgot to turn my phone down. But what's up, guys? Welcome back to Deck Talk Podcast. And boy, we have a guest on tonight that we have had on before. It's actually our second episode ever. We was privileged enough to get Shaw on here, and we got him on again because that second episode was kind of rough after Norman and I went back and was listening to it. It was kind of rough on our end. So we're like, hey, Shaw, we got to make this up. So we got Mr. Shaw Grigsby on. And but guys, if you don't know, I'm Colin Burnett.
That's right, Colin, and I am Norman Lee, but you know what? First things first, we had to take care of some business tonight, Colin. Sponsoring tonight's episode is Cornfield Fishing Gear, offering electronic mounting brackets you can trust, rock-solid engineering, safe and secure, giving you a peace of mind, knowing you can focus more on your fishing and less about the security of your investment. Whether you're running single or dual units, from the console to the bow, they have the bracket that will suit your fishing style. Fully adjustable mounts made, produced, and manufactured in the USA. For more information on Cornfield Fishing Gear, contact us on our Deck Top Podcast website at www.decktoppodcast.com. Again, that is decktoppodcast.com. Man, Colin, you are spot on. You know, he was on our second episode ever, and almost 2 years later, he is back. But anyway, let's give this man the proper introduction that this legendary angler well deserves. Okay, here we go. He is a 16-time Bassmaster Classic qualifier and a 4-time Red Quest qualifier. His stat sheet looks like the Encyclopedia of Britannica with 9 wins, 10 seconds, 5 thirds, 64 top 10s, and 102 top 20s. He fished his first national tournament in 1977, and 47 years later is one of the most popular, well-liked anglers in the world. Inducted into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame in 2017, and for over 20 years, we all watched and learned from just one more cast. The man that is more than a myth. He is a true legend. Let's welcome to the show a fellow Florida native, Mr. Shaw Grigsby Jr.
I'm like, wow, that guy's really something, man. You spent some time figuring all that
out. Oh, man.
So how's everything going down in Florida for you, Mr. Shaw?
Good. We weathered the storm, had that hurricane come through, devastating hurricane. It really,
man.
When it came through my area, I was only probably 40 miles off the edge of it, 40 or 50 miles off the edge of it. But it came through. It did a lot of damage on the coastline. But then what it did in North Carolina and Tennessee and even places in Georgia is just horrific. And we've been praying heavy for those people. That's a really tough deal.
So. Yeah, and I, which we kind of talked about it, and in which you kind of, because I said that I think states outside of Florida got hit harder than what Florida did, but then, and I think the reason why, because we're in Chattanooga. And so we see all the stuff that's in Eastern Tennessee, and then we see the North Carolina and the Georgia stuff. But we really didn't see nothing was talked about really what was on the coast. And so, and that was why I was thinking that. But you told us that a couple of the cities that were right there at the coastline got demolished too.
Yeah, it's like there's Horseshoe Beach and Steenhatchee got demolished. Horseshoe Beach got demolished. Cedar Key had damage. I mean, pretty much all the coastline going up in the Big Bend there just got crushed.
Man. Yeah, and it is so sad because thousands and thousands of people. I mean, life changed overnight, and and North Carolina. I mean, with that dam breaking. Then all that water. That was a lot of water that came through. That they haven't ever seen water like they don't know what flooding was until that happened.
Yeah. That's it's really sad. It truly is. And anytime you lose somebody, that's sad. But having a loss of life on a storm that you don't even really think, you're so far inland that it can't really do anything to you, and then it did. So that
Yeah.
that's a scary thing. I
Yeah.
mean, I've lived here my whole life, and so hurricanes are normal for us, to have them, and we don't think much of them. Of course, if you get a Cat 5 coming in, you don't want to be in the
Yeah.
immediate vicinity of it. So, but most of the time we just ride them out, and so this one was strong enough that when I was riding it out, I was like, might not do that again.
Right. Yeah. Well, it built up a
Yeah.
whole lot. I mean, it got closer to the coast. It got stronger than what they were really anticipating too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, but I want to talk a little bit of fishing with you, and but I also want to talk some hunting and what you do outside of fishing on your downtime. But you are mostly known for being a power fisherman, and so when you're down in Florida and stuff like that, and you're flipping, like let's say some reeds or grass lines or something like that, what is like the setup that if you're flipping, what are you throwing?
Yeah, I'm throwing a Lew's 7.6. You know, uh, Most of my rods were the custom pros, but we've got some new ones out, some new LFS that's just really, really cool. But 7.6 heavy action. I spool it with 50-pound uh, Seagar and braid, and I use Smackdown and TACX. And the SmackDown is probably my preferred. It's real smooth. But if I'm in matted stuff, so a lot of what we have in Florida is not like reeds and stuff like that. It's vegetation that's come up, and it'll just gunk up and bunch up on the surface, and then you're punching through that. Now
Right,
some of the stuff is like hydrocotyle, which are little dollar bonnets, and it just makes a little group of them, and those are easy to get through. Hyacinths a little bit more, harder to get through, and then you get to the what called smartweed. Some people call it gator grass, and it's real hard to get through. And as you get to different things, then you want something that can cut. So that's when I use the Tactex, and the Tactex is a rougher braid, and I can set the hook and it actually will cut through the stuff so it doesn't wedge down in it. So
gotcha.
so I use two of them. I do have 65, but I really think I get more bites on my 50. So I use 50
Right.
more than I do 65, and generally have an ounce, ounce and a quarter, ounce and a half tungsten, Strike King tungsten, and then put a Trocar TK 130 or a TK 135. Both of them are really good flipping hooks. And go to town, man. Just,
Yeah,
I use a bug. What happens is you've got that tungsten weight on there, so it stands up, an inch and a half, and then you've got your bait. So you're adding an inch and a half to your bait for the whole package. And so generally we use small baits. Scound bugs, incredible bait. The Strike King Menace, incredible bait. Any of those smaller baits work real well. Every now and then we go wild and we'll take a finesse worm, trick worm, or something like that and punch it through, or something that makes it a little bit different presentation. But most of the time, I'm using those little bugs, and
Right.
drop it through, let it fall down. Usually, if it let it fall down to the bottom, unless you're really deep, like there's some places I'll flip where it's a river and you got these overhanging mats. It'll be 20 feet down, below it. And so when you're doing that, I don't usually let it go all the way to the bottom. I punch it through. I'll drop it, down like 3 feet, 4 feet, and I'll just pull it back to the mat like it's a crawfish laying up underneath that stuff and hanging out. And a lot of times they'll suck it off the bottom of the mat.
right.
Yeah.
And we were talking to you. I don't know. We've talked to you quite a few times before, but I'm wanting to think that it was when is that ICAST 2 years ago when we actually ate lunch with you with Lori and Beth with two chicks in a boat, and I think that and you was one of those times, but I think it was that time you was telling us like that mat and stuff like you was it you had like a sifter or something like that and you
No, I
sifted
did that. Yeah. So
and
I was filming with Glenn Lau, who, fantastic cinematographer, won so many awards, did all the underwater stuff, and he was really the father of underwater filming for fishing. And he spent hours, like 10,000 hours underwater studying bass, and did a movie called it's called oh, here we go. Anyway, it's the Bible for bass fishermen. But anyway, I'm old guy, so I have a brain fart every now and then. But
That's
anyway,
all right.
so he is amazing, and so I was filming with him at Rodman, and he brought a little seine, a small little, like a 4 foot seine. We took it and we stuck it up underneath the mat, and then just shook it around, and pulled the stuff out and lifted the mat. I'm like, oh my god, there were little eels, there's shrimp, little freshwater shrimp. There's just so crawfish, all kinds of stuff laying in the bottom of that mat, and so they all lay in those roots, and so that's what really bass are doing, is watching something come through, and there it is, and get after it.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
And
now, do you find when you're punching mat shot, do you find that do you ever catch any fish once your bait drops all the way down to the bottom, or are you finding that most of the fish are actually setting up and staging right below the mat, on
So
the belly side of
I
the mat?
catch, I actually catch most of mine. Most of my flipping will be in that 3 to 5 foot stuff. Every now and then it's a foot and a half, but it's that shallow flipping down to maybe 5 or 6 feet. That's most of my flipping, and most of them come off the bottom. It'll sink down, and he'll hit it. Like maybe the first pickup or whatever.
Right,
Some days though, I get out there and I drop it through, and it's sinking, and boom, he's hitting it. So they're
right.
taking it on the fall. But it's like fishing. I mean, it's fishing. You do not know until you get out there. You don't know the way they want it.
Yeah,
But if
exactly.
you're not getting them on the fall, right, then you hits the bottom, then you shake it and jiggle it on the fall. You jiggle it a little, jiggle a little, pick it up. Then you might want to pull it up to the bottom, shake it up in the bottom of the mat, and see what gets that fish to bite, and then kind of focus in on that kind of deal.
right,
Right.
right.
Now, with with you using a heavier, like that ounce and a half weight, um, are you having to make sure, like, as soon as you feel it, you don't want to set the hook, right? Or do you want to kind of let them take it a little bit to make sure that it's actually in their mouth? Because I've noticed, like, here on Chickamauga, like when I'm flipping grass, like if I don't allow them to take it, then they once I get them up out and they try to do a jump or whatever, and that weight's just hanging outside, then it's, if I didn't get a good hook set on it, that's coming out.
Yeah. So there's two things that I do, and one is I don't peg my weight hardly ever for big weights,
Right.
and even little ones. I try not to peg them. If I can get by with just fishing them without pegging them, then I'm in good shape. If you peg it, then it's going to go in their mouth just like a
Right.
shaky head or a jig or whatever. You've got to get that out of their mouth, right? But on a big weight, it's pretty hard to get that weight out. They can clamp down on it so tight that you can't get it out of their mouth, especially if they're not a big fish. A big fish, he's got so much body weight that when you set the hook, you can move it out because it's a lot harder to move him. A littler fish, a 2 pounder, you could set the hook with him with an ounce and a half weight in his mouth, and you can launch him, and he opens
Alter.
his mouth, and he just flies through the air. And um, so the point being is that I try not to peg that weight if I don't have to. And then when they get it, they usually don't have the weight in their mouth. They just got the hook and the bait, and you
Yeah.
set them and you got them. So your percentages go up doing that. And then and then on the sense of waiting or not waiting, I generally get the bite, and I take just, it's like a half a second. It's not long. It's just like I'm in position. And that's always been my thought, is that if you are in position to set that hook, because sometimes you pitch it in and you're up here, with your rod is up high, and boom, something hits it. If you start to set the hook, you don't even catch him till you're behind your head and your rod,
Right.
then you don't get much hook set. So,
Yeah,
just take a couple turns or whatever and be able to lay into them. And you just seem to be, more
Yeah.
efficient at catching them.
Yeah,
Right.
because if you don't take that slack out, it's allowing that rod tip to try. You're trying to set the fish or set the hook on the fish with the rod tip instead of
Right.
using the whole
Yeah.
backbone of it.
You have
And
less power. Well, you have less power and less swing when it's straight up versus if you're in position with the rod kind of out
plus,
towards the fish.
yeah, almost every rod that's a good rod nowadays, if you get up and behind you, you're pulling down the rod, it just blows
Yeah.
up. So,
Yeah.
Right.
that's rods are meant to be at the angle, kind of
Yeah.
get my hand here, kind of like this,
Mhm.
that angle, not to be here and bend down them because that breaks them.
Right. Yeah. I've broke one or two boat flipping,
Yep.
thinking I was gonna be cool boat flipping. A 6 pounder was the last one that I tried to boat flip and snap. And so, but I want to talk real quick. Uh, Also, and we'll get back onto some baits, but we talked to you at the Red Crest here this past year, and Lawrence has this new unit that has come out that I think is phenomenal. Especially, it's the best bang for the buck by far,
Yeah.
and everything that it can do is phenomenal. I mean, you're paying less money for stuff that, I mean, it compares to like the HDS and the bigger units, but it's in a smaller unit format. Am I correct?
Well, so they make it up to a 9 inch. It's the Eagle,
Right.
and so you get a 9 inch unit that has all the mapping, the same mapping, has pretty much everything that we have. It doesn't have everything; it has most everything. It has that same look as the unit that I use, except it's a 9 inch unit, and it's for like $6.99,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's ridiculously cheap with the embedded mapping. So the mapping is unbelievable. The sonar is unbelievable, everything about it. And then at the um, Classic and at Red Crest, they were introducing the new Eagle Eye, and so the
Right.
Eagle Eye, which is amazing, so they now have forward sonar for less than $1,000. For
Wow.
you
Wow.
get the
Yeah, that's
unit
big.
and everything and all. Now you don't have to have the box. It's a plug-in. It's not a triple crystal like my forward sonar. They have like one crystal deal in there, or whatever they call that, because I'm not technical wizard on. But the view of it, I looked at it. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness! If you want to play with forward sonar, you want to look at, or should I say, live sonar, because that's what it is. It's happening right in front of you
Yeah.
right now. You see a fish there. If you want to play with that or learn it, that's what a way to do it for
Yeah.
way cheaper than anything else.
Man, yeah, I tell you what, you can't really beat that because I mean that's the one thing with forward facing sonar is they're and any kind of real time fish finders right now is they're getting so
Yeah,
up there in price, and the average working man that has a family to support but still loves the fish can't afford them. So that's perfect, dude. That
yeah,
price range for a forward facing sonar just
Yeah.
makes it so easy for the average for the working man to be
Yeah.
able to go out and buy.
and
That's pretty darn
Christmas is
cool.
coming. Christmas is
Yeah,
Christmas.
right. Yeah, right.
not very far away.
No, it'll
Where's
be
my wife?
here.
You hear that? You hear that, baby?
Yeah.
It's on my Christmas list.
So, but yeah, I was very surprised on how clear. I mean, because I've got the uh, Elite FS, and it was clearer than my Elite FS, um, and but Norman and I were talking. I was like, man, and the price. I mean, I paid way more than that for my for my Lowrance that I got. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but yeah,
no,
I would have.
they're amazing units. They truly
They
are
are. They
amazing.
are. And the thing is though is you once you start playing around with that forward facing sonar and stuff. I mean, it's a game changer in the fact of it's not going to put more fish in the boat for you, but you get to learn how fish. their behavior is. You can kind of see, all right, I'm not going to throw at that fish because it's not set up quite right to where I know that they're not going to start. They're not going to eat yet, and but I've learned so much with just even with my active target too that I have,
Yeah.
and so, but yeah,
I
after
throw all of them.
you throw it all up.
It's so fun. I mean, I get out there and I'm fishing. I look over, ooh, there's one over there. Most of the time you go to lake, especially in Florida, it's all target fishing because you got all the vegetation. You got, lily pads sticking up in the grass edge and hydrilla, and you're pitching over there. But you scan with your active target, or you look over there and go, ooh, there's one over there, and he's not in the normal position. You throw over there, all of a sudden he cycles in and grabs your bait, and you're like, oh man, that's so cool. So it's special, and you really know that when you're making a cast, you're making it on a fish, not just out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And really everybody, has thought about the real-time fish finders in the past as deep water. Now they're winning big major tournaments in shallow water with these things.
Absolutely.
They're able to tune them in to be able to see fish in 3 foot of water, 4 foot. I think Okeechobee, it was the Elite Series, wasn't it? A couple of years
Uh,
ago
I think it was an open.
was
And Scott.
Scott
was
won it
Scott
last year.
Scott was most recent. I think the
Yeah.
Elite wasn't it the Elite Series 2 years ago. Was one on Okeechobee. I think last time the Elites went down to Okeechobee, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know if last Elite Series was one off of forward facing sonar, but I do know Scott did on that.
Scott used it. Yep.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. And then there's so many tournaments now that are getting won on it with even spawning fish, out on flats. You can pick out the bed, see the fish or on
Yeah.
the stump or whatever. And so it's pretty cool. I actually caught one this year sight fishing with my forward facing sonar, my active target. And I'm looking at one on a bed, and you can't see him because it's too deep and it's too dark.
Right.
yeah.
But I could see him doing the same thing they do when you can see him chase a bluegill off the bed, come back to the bed, circle around, chase another one off. I throw over there, catch him on a shaky head.
yeah.
It's really fun.
Yeah. So, Shaw, Lori with two chicks in the boat says hi.
Well, you tell
And
them hi. I say hi to them. I enjoyed our meeting you, and I think I was in Ohio that I met them, and
yeah,
then seen them a number of different times. So
yeah. And so she said, with my eyesight, I need a 64-inch screen for driving down the lake. And so, and then she
hey,
got on to Norman saying that don't forget about the working lady, Norman. Where you said working man.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. My apologies.
But yeah, so yeah, it's kind of funny how as we get older, how our eyes kind of give up on us a little bit. So
yeah. So I wear readers now, and I'm pretty good on distance still. But you can tell. I mean, I'm 68. You can tell that I don't have what I used to have. I don't have the abilities that I used to have. But I still am so passionate about it. Still love it. I love the outdoors. I mean, I just being inside is okay, but man, I love getting outside. So
Yeah.
the other day I was out, I was scouting for a gator, and I took the grandson and we went to Orange Lake real quick, and we're fishing, and it starts getting low light, and it just lit up in one of the most beautiful sunsets that I've seen. And we were leaving the lake. On the lake, it would have probably been the prettiest one I've ever seen in my life. But I got on the ramp, and then I saw that it just lit up like 10 times more. I went, oh my gosh. I
wow.
ran back and took a picture. I don't know if a picture will come up, but I will try to just, let's see if you can see this.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
On it, right? So
That
that
Yeah.
is
was
neat.
the first. And then this is, let's see, I'll turn it. Wait a minute. Come on, get off of that. Cancel. Turn it sideways. So it went,
Oh
Oh wow.
wow.
you can't
That is
really see
cool.
it, but it went all the way across the whole screen with this bright, beautiful, and that's no color. That was just shooting it real quick. It was stunning.
Wow.
And I'm like,
That is.
No, I just I hate getting up early, but man, those sunrises, sunsets, life coming up, when things start happening and birds are flying and eagles are running around, flying over you. It's just like it's fantastic. And
Yeah,
I feel sad for people that don't get to get outside and enjoy that.
yeah.
Yeah. So, is there any like new baits that you're kind of excited about that maybe your sponsors may be putting out that may have
That you
came out at
that you could talk
ICAST that
that
you
you
could
could talk
talk
about.
about?
Well, we Strike King, and I say we, it's a company I've been with for a super long time, and they came out with some really incredible baits for forward facing sonar. But one of them's the Final Copy, which is a really cool swim bait, and I am just, I mean, it's going to be a moneymaker, and so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, they have everything from crankbait color, and all that. And yeah, I'm excited. Most of them, unfortunately, they introduce them at ICAST, so we introduce them in what's that, July, like
July.
Yeah,
12th or 15th or
Yeah.
whatever it is. They get introduced, but then they're not shipping them till October, November. So anytime now, I should be getting some, so I can go out and max some, So yeah, but I'm excited about it.
yeah, that's awesome.
Lori has a question for you, Shaw. She says, when you're catching fish in a tournament, you're not supposed to leave fish to find fish. When do you make the move if you need a bigger fish?
So that's a very key thing about not leaving fish till you find fish, to find fish. But if you're catching the same size fish, if I catch a limit, then I'm going to leave them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not hard. It's not hard. You get five in the boat, you're like, okay, I got them, and this is the size you're getting. What do you got to do to catch a bigger one? And that's what you got to do. So then you kind of change up a bit. You say, do I move offshore? Do I get to a main point that drops off where a bigger one might be hanging? So that's kind of the stuff, and that's where your forward sonar really helps you out in the sense of doing it. What always, because you can figure out where the fish are, you can see where they are. It's really cool though, because a lot of ours is post spawn uh, fish, so that we're not usually fishing when it's too much pre spawn, but they normally schedule the tournaments where it's getting in spawn or post spawn, and or then comes into summertime for the last tournament. But so that post spawn stuff is like, those males will still be around the beds, they'll still be shallow, but those females have moved out. So I move out to that first drop, that first point, that someplace, maybe little brush piles that are just offshore, that type of thing. And that's really the key to get out there to get the big one. So I do leave fish. I have no problem leaving fish to go get a bigger one, but I want to get my limit first. So it's not like I'm
Right.
going to catch one or two and leave fish to go find, because
Right.
I'm going to get the limit in the boat, and then we'll go from there.
Now, I'll
Right.
take that question a little bit one step further, Shaw. When you're in an area that is loaded with fish, but every fish that you're catching is all cookie cutter, good quality tournament fish that anybody probably, a lot of the guys in the tournament would be happy to be catching. How hard is it? And you're going to need those maybe for day two or three or even possibly four. How hard is it to leave good quality fish knowing they're all the same size and you might need to save them, but knowing there's probably some bigger fish in the area that you could catch as well?
Yeah, managing your fish is always that's a tough call. I've had it where I tell you what, I had my dad with me. This is years ago at Okeechobee, and there's just a lot of sight fish around, and I see this one, and I mean, it is a tank. It's over 10. And I look at this fish, and my heart starts to, oh my gosh, and I said, Dad, you got to look at this. And he's like, 80 at the time. and he slips up there and he sees it. He says, "Oh my gosh!" And he immediately pitches over to it. And this fish was like dumber than heck. I mean, she was like, "I'm eating it, right?" And so she, as soon as his bait hits, she turns to eat it. I'm like grabbing his rod and pulling his line. I go, "Dad, I need that for the tournament." I went back in the tournament. She was gone. I should have just leave
Oh,
it was a giant. But
Yeah.
you try to manage your fish the best you can. So you get there and I'm gonna try to get my limit today and then save and hopefully I'll come back tomorrow. It's so cool because it seems like when you come back the next day, things change dramatically and
yeah.
you have to refine them anyway or move some a little bit more. So if I look back on my history of the tournaments I've won, and it's almost all of them, I fished here one day, and then I'd start there day two, and it wouldn't be happening. I had to move over here for day two. And then day three, I would start there for day three and not
Move.
and have to move to another place. So
Right.
every one of them, you had to have another day somewhere else to make it happen. Now,
Yeah.
every now and then, you could find a spot that was like a honey hole where you could really milk it for 3 or 4 days. That one in Harris Chain, I went in one hole and stayed 4 days and won that Harris Chain. The Elite Series. So yeah, you can do that occasionally, but it's not as often as you'd like.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
common.
So Brenton asked, "Do you have more fun fishing in tournaments or relax fishing with friends and family?"
Um, I probably have more fun taking my kids, my grandkids and kids, watching them have fun catching them. But no, I truly love the competition. So I love the tournament fishing and it's exciting. Wake up in the morning, be there, and you got the national anthem and a prayer, and then you get out there on the water, and it's just every morning of a tournament. I sit back and I just thank God that I've been blessed to be an angler, and it's been an amazing run. I don't think that it's going to go very much farther. I think this 2025 season next year will be my final tournament competition season. I might fish some local stuff or whatever, but for the national competition, that'll probably do it for me and hang it up and just it's been so amazing. It's taken me all over, basically all over the world, all kinds of different places and things. I've done the Euro Cup. I've done, fishing overseas and Japan and just, I mean, it's been really cool. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I have no complaints. I just know that, it's time to hang it up. So,
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I hate to see that because I know
Yeah.
I enjoy watching you fish. I definitely enjoy talking to you about fishing because your face still lights up every time when you're talking about fishing. Um, and you've always, for the past 3-4 years that I've known you, that's how it's always been.
yeah,
And then watching the television show, you could see it then too that it's like because I didn't know who Shaw Grigsby was when I was growing up, but I can remember telling my dad that like I know this guy, he loves fishing just because of how you presented yourself, and you can tell that you really enjoyed the sport, and and it didn't matter what you was fishing for, but you just enjoyed being
Yeah.
out there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I'll keep fishing, and who knows? I keep thinking about whether I do a YouTube or something like that, and really, I have a YouTube channel, but whether I start doing some fresh new stuff and
right,
I'll probably do that. I got some, got a few of those GoPros, and I've got the YOLO Techs, the YOLO sticks that are just fantastic, man. You
yeah,
just plug them in and go, and so I'll probably do some stuff, and especially with my new passion, my new job that I have for off season, it's exciting, and and since it's dangerous and exciting, it fits perfect for YouTube. And so
It does. It does.
Now,
Well,
now, I was gonna say Kevin says that he's busier now than he was ever when he was competing in the industry. So we're gonna see you when you do finally retire, Shaw. We're gonna see you out there as busy as you are now, or you kind of gonna kick back a little bit and just do some things spotty here and there.
well, if I do crank up the YouTube, it's busy. Okay, that's
Yeah,
busy stuff, and that's what Kevin is. When you film that, I mean, you have everything from programming and trying to set up to where that every product that you need to promote that's on there
yeah,
that the sponsors are paying for, that you get them in there in a very reasonable and a very honest way, and so it's time consuming, and you're
yeah,
always trying to figure out where can I go? Let's say I got to do a jerkbait show, right? So I'm going to
yeah,
use the KVD jerkbait, and I need to go do a show. Well, where can I do it, and when is it going to be the best? And so you're just planning out the whole season. It's a tough deal, and so yeah,
yeah.
he's going to be busy. So he's having fun. I can guarantee
Yeah,
that.
oh, no
yeah,
doubt about that.
There's nothing better than being passionate about something and making a living doing that you're passionate about. That's
Yeah,
yeah,
the best situation you can have.
yeah,
yeah. So, since you brought up your out of tournament season job, let's talk about. People may not know what Shaw Grigsby does when he's not fishing. What were you doing here this week that you actually caught something that was pretty massive?
Yeah. So I work with a guy named Captain Ron Sanderson, and he's the nuisance gator trapper for 3 counties here in Florida, and I'm one of his agents. So we end up going quite a bit and getting nuisance gators, and we have, I mean, a blast. We've had some interesting times, and we got a call the other day. Actually, had a friend in from. I donated a trip last year to Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, gator hunting trip, and I drew a tag. And so the guy Clayton was here. Reno, I think, is his last name, but Clayton was here from Arkansas. Great guy. I mean, just enjoyed this guy immensely. And so we're sitting at the house. We get a nuisance gator call. So we gator hunted in the morning and hadn't got anything. And I said, hey, you want to go on this call, because he's got his gator tag, his license to be able to go get them. So we do it. It's on I-75. Okay, so anybody that's driven through Florida has probably driven I-75. If you're coming from the south, going north, and you hit Gainesville, you come up from the prairie, Payne's Prairie. It used to be a big old lake, and you come up this hill, and you're at Gainesville. Well, right there on the right hand side is a rest area. Well, in that rest area is a retention pond, and you're like, what the heck? So anyway, we get this call. Ron calls me, since it's real close to my house. He says, why don't you just go down and get it? It's supposed to be a 4-footer, and just go catch him. And I'm like, a 4-footer? Like, really? Little itty bitty? You go reach in there and grab a 4-footer, but don't do that, by the way. They can bite you. Anyway, we get down there, and this pond is just full of trash. People throwing all this trash, and it's covered in green slime all the way across it. And I'm looking, I don't see a gator. And I'm like 8 feet, 10 feet off the bank of this thing. So I get my binoculars and I look. And all of a sudden I see 2 eyes, and I went, that's a gator. And I see a nose. So I got the eyes, let's put the eyes here and the nose over here. And I went, that ain't no
It's not
4-footer.
4-footer.
So I said, Clayton, get him. So anyway, Clayton hooks him up. He throws a regular treble on my Super Duty, loose Super Duty rod, and 80-pound, Seagar, and he loads into him. It's going around and takes him down the bank, and then I get my grandson to put another hook in him, little, and these are little trebles, but they hold them real strong, and three-aught trocars, and so he's pulling on him, and we can't move him. I mean, he's a big one. So Ron finally gets there, because he brought the trailer so we can put the gator in it. and he gets this big grappling hook deal. And I take the rod from Clayton, and Bryce has the other one, and he puts the grappling hook in between. He hooks him on the hook, and it's going all down the bank. And we finally drag him up, and we get a noose around his head, and then we get his mouth closed, and we tape it, and we drag him up. And when we measured him, and we let Clayton do most of the work, but when we measured him, he was 10 foot 1 inch.
Oh man,
Whoa.
It
far
wasn't a
cry
four
from 4 foot. Oh
I'm like,
jeez.
so we have a great time doing that. It's fun. It's exciting. I got one the other night at midnight. Got a call and had to go to the campus and get one out of Florida, University of Florida campus. But so the nuisance gator trapping is that, and then of course right now is gator season.
Yeah.
So it starts August 15th and goes to November. It used to be November 1st. I think they give you an extra few days now. But they so gator season is when you actually hunt them and kill them and process them and get to eat the meat. And if you
Yeah.
want, we some people get boots and wallets and belts and all kinds of things made out of the skin.
Yeah.
But the gator meat's delicious. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I actually helped a guy yesterday morning finish his tags on Orange Lake, and we got a 9.9, which was a real nice one, and we got it casted. So that's the fun part is
Yeah.
you take it's a 711 Super Duty rod, extra heavy, and it's for like muskie and swim baits and things. And you got this 3/0 trocar treble, and you got this 1.5 ounce tungsten tied up underneath it, and you just cast across and reel it up, hook them, And then we had to put a second hook in him. Then we got to get the grapple hook in him. Then we got him up, got a harpoon, and then we got him up and bang sticked him. And then we had to load him into the boat. So after that, I was exhausted.
That tired.
Yeah, I tell you what, Shaw. How many years or how long have you been catching the nuisance gators? Because last time we had you on the show, you were telling us a story about when you were in junior high and your teacher hired you way back then to get a nuisance gator. Now get this, folks. In high school, I don't think that's never going to happen in today's world. But
Nah.
Shaw, you were in junior high. I think you already said you were like 15 years old.
I think I was a little older. I think I was in 10th grade. So
10th
I'm in
grade.
high school, and I think I was in about 10th grade or 11th because my teacher, my science teacher, was Ross Allen's wife, ex-wife, and Ross Allen was the world's foremost authority on poisonous snakes and stuff like that. Had Ross Allen Reptile Institute at Silver Springs, and people would come in and see these really cool poisonous snakes, cobras, and all these mambas and everything else. Plus, they had a big alligator show and all that stuff. Well, she taps comes in and asks my Pete teacher out of math class, and she goes, "Hey, I need Shaw," and I'm like, well, "What do you need me for?" And anyway, make a long story short, I had to go catch an alligator in the creek that runs through my high school. And of course, she said we didn't want any of the kids to get bit, and I'm like, "What about me?" I mean, it's not like I had a fishing rod or something to get him. I had to literally come up behind him underwater and grab him real quick, and he whooped me. So I'm just battling and acting off for dear life. But he settled down, and then he actually took my belt off out of my pants because we all wore belts, and wrapped him around the nose and cinched it. And we went out and found some tape and taped him, and another teacher took it to his property. But so I've done that. So I've been doing the nuisance thing for probably close to 3 years, and it's gotten real heavy in this last year. Just being so fun, and finally got to be an official agent. And but the regular gator hunting I've been doing for a long time, and just had a great time, gator hunting. So it's just fun, and it's a great time, but you do have to be very careful. So,
Yeah.
we haven't had any accidents. We've had close calls, but nothing. And we learn every time you have a close call, you realize that, you can't mess up, because you mess up, you lose an arm, lose a leg. It can be really, really bad. And so, so we're real cautious now, and that's good. The younger you are, you're not as cautious. You're kind of fearless, but now that you get older, you go, nope, I think I'll just.
Yeah.
I watched
we'll watch this one.
What's the biggest?
last night because my grandson, when I was gone, my grandson helps out, and he does quite a bit of nuisance trapping too. And so he's helping out, and they've got this big gator. It's like an 11-4, right? So it's a big one. And they've got the ropes on him. Well, then he starts going into this death roll, right? And he rolls up all the rope all the way to my grandson. I mean, he's coming right to him. He's like, grandson finally gets when it's like at his feet, he finally lets go of the rope and takes a step back. And I'm like, smart kid. I mean, that gator's just going to roll right on over him. So,
Yeah.
but
What's the biggest gator you ever caught when you were hunting?
we caught him up at 11-6.
Number six.
I think that's the biggest we've caught, 11-6.
All right.
And it may be 11-7, but I'm pretty sure it's 11-6. And so uh, we've had some fun times doing it, and took Brian Evans from Seagar, and he got to come down. I think we got an 11-5 and 11-6 with him. That was the big.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's cool.
So he had a great time, and he was testing that Tactex, that we have the line, and it's a braided line. It handled 11. When you can handle 11-foot gators, it's pretty good. So
Yeah,
it was fun.
That's awesome.
So have you ever done any of like those python hunts and stuff that they have
Oh,
down there?
Oh, I'd love to. That's really cool. I keep up with this guy, Python Cowboy, on Instagram.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! They're because there's so many invasive species. It's really crazy how people get an animal, some crazy animal, and have it as a pet. Well, then they can't take care of it, or they're moving, and they throw it out in the wild, and that's terrible because now it's competing with native things, and so what we've had is iguanas have become just a complete nuisance, terrible thing down there. And so, he'll shoot the iguanas, he'll shoot the Egyptian geese. Those are all invasive, and catch these pythons, these big old pythons. And and hog hunt too. But it's pretty intense. And to see some of them are huge. And I was talking to a buddy of mine that he was down in the going out to Flamingo, and he came across one of those big ones, on his way to take the boat, to go launch the boat. And I mean, just giant python across the road. I'm like, wow, I would have loved it. I would have just, so I don't know how I'd done it, but I used to carry my snake stick in the car, which is just a old golf club with a piece of metal on it, and it just makes a U, so you can kind of lift them up. And but something that big, and I don't know if you remember, Steve Daniel was a great professional angler, made classic many times.
Yeah.
Now is a guide at Okeechobee, and probably one of the best on the lake too. But Steve saw one on Okeechobee in shallow water, and he thought, well, let's see what we do. And he hooks him with like a lipless crankbait, and it's like, out of here. There's no. It's like I said, man, I want that. I want that experience. I don't. I want to enjoy it for a few seconds while you're hanging on to him.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, Shaw, I don't know if you remember this. You were actually there. I think it was the second Major League. This is when Major League first started. And basically what, not the tour or anything, the MLF.
Yeah,
When they basically on Estapoga. You remember when they went down to Estapoga? Well, I actually was driving a media guy around all day, following different anglers, and we were actually filming Greg Hackney. I'm not sure what day it was, but Greg Hackney was throwing. I can't remember what he was throwing. I think he was throwing a Texas rig worm, and he had, I think it was like a 9-footer. And they got it all on video. I mean, he had a cameraman on the boat, got the whole thing. And on a Texas rig worm, and after the fact, Greg says that gator hit it just like a bass. He set the hook just like it was a bass. And then all of a sudden it was just on, and he ended up dragging him, I think, for he was using a 65-pound braid, and he ended up dragging Greg in circles for about a half an hour. And Greg was starting to say, because we're like 10 feet away from his boat, filming in a separate boat, and watching the whole thing up close and personal. And when he finally did get him up to the boat, the cameraman on Greg's boat had a great shot of that gator. It came like halfway up in the boat, the head of it. And Greg jumped back, And he took off again, and finally he came loose. And Greg says, "Man, that's a blessing. The darn thing came loose. What a waste of time, but it was fun."
They are. They
Yeah.
truly are fun. And,
Yeah,
and so the thing when we nuisance trap, we the difference is gator hunting. We actually kill them
yeah,
and harvest the meat and all that. Nuisance gators, we catch them alive. So we catch
yeah,
all of them alive. So when you're talking about putting, like Bryce and Ron got that 11.4, you got a heavy one. We got a 10, I don't know, it was 10.8, 10.9, big, but he was real old, big fat gator. And he was so big we couldn't get him in the boat. So we tied his head to the front cleat of the boat and, made sure that he could tie it to the side so it wouldn't get in the prop or anything of my
yeah,
Merc. And we
Yeah.
had to idle 4 miles with him. And then we got him up on the boat ramp. Fortunately, there were some guys there, a couple friends, people that we had met, and one guy was holding one of the ropes that we had. We had two ropes on him, so one's around his head and one's around his midsection. And so I was sitting on top of him on the ramp. Unfortunately, he was facing down towards the water, right? And I've been sitting there for 5 minutes while or 7 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, while they went and get the trailer, bring the trailer back around and, back the trailer so we can load him into the trailer. Well, somebody, I'm sitting on him where his arms are and got the rope in hand. And somebody came by and tapped him on the tail. I don't know what they were thinking, but next thing I know, I'm being drugged down the ramp and going to the water, and I'm holding on to everything I got, trying to get it. My knees are bloodied from being drugged, the ramp.
Oh,
And fortunately, the other guys that had the big ropes that were, I was holding on to, but I'm on the gator, so I'm taking a ride to the water. And they stopped him just as he hit the water edge, and I'm like, man, thank you. We
yeah.
turned him around and got like 5 or 6 people on him and tossed him into the trailer, and they probably have that one at Gator World or something, and so or Gator Land. We take those gators to certain places where they
yeah,
really enjoy themselves. So, but at least where they won't be a nuisance to people, it won't
yeah, right,
attack
yeah,
somebody's dog or cat or somebody, a little kid that goes swimming or whatever. So,
yeah.
So nuisance gators, you just relocate.
right.
I got you. So my dad's on here, and he says he wants me to tell you about actually when the right after we ate lunch with you at ICAST at the on Toho, um, we we went down to the Everglades, and we had 9.5 footers stay with us the whole time that we was going down this canal, and
It's
uh,
aggravating.
and so in which we had Neil Starks was with us, and so he had took us out. He said because we told him that we was going to the Everglades to catch some peacocks, and he says, "Hey, I'll go with you." He says, "I'll put you on some peacocks," and so we're like, "All right, let's go." And so we were out there. Norman and I are at the front of the boat, and I've got my GoPro going in the back, and Neil's in the back, just kind of just watching everything going on. And Norman and I both hook up on a peacock, and I have a peacock that went about 5-6 pounds,
Woo.
and this sucker Norman's on my right side, and the grass line is on the right side. So Norman's bringing his in at the same time as I'm bringing mine in, and mine's probably about 8 feet in front of his. So I'm trying not to get the lines crisscrossed. And so, and here comes, because it's making all this splash, here comes that gator just comes up. And then I'm trying to hold my rod tip down, trying to keep it down in the water. Next thing you know, it pops up. As soon as it pops up, that gator goes, oh, and just
Ah,
nails that sucker. And so, but yeah, that was uh, I got a hard time given to me because they're like, you're not supposed to let the gator get the peacock, and I'm like, in Chattanooga, we don't have nothing coming after our fish.
I told him you have to learn how to walk them fish around them gators.
Yeah,
I've had that happen. I had my daughter reeling in a redfish, and a gator came after it really hard and fast. And I said, "You got to go." And she just, I mean, she a normal redfish that you would have to fight around. And all she reeled it up and you boom and threw it in the boat. And there we go. I hit the gator with my push pole on my boat, but uh, fortunately, he didn't bite the pole in half. He tried, but that would have been bad because
yeah,
those are expensive poles. But
yeah.
anyway, yeah.
And it's crazy, like how close, like them gators will just, especially like in the canals, they'll come right up and like have their nose right on the gunnel of the boat, and then again from Tennessee, it's a little frightening.
Those are truly what we call nuisance gators because once they get fed, they think this is an easy meal and they'll do that, and then it gets pretty scary. That
Yeah,
you can't even like wash your hand on the side of the boat, and so
Yeah.
you got to be real cautious with that.
yeah. Brenton says I've had a big northern or a muskie take a bluegill right off the reel. So that's we've got muskies up here, or I guess it's up here to Shaw, down here to you, Brenton. He's in Minnesota, so but
I actually had one in Minnesota also eat a bass. I hooked him on a Carolina rig and brought him up, and so I was fighting him, and this big muskie just grabbed him. And fortunately, I got it, kind of pulled it away from him. And I said, "Well, that was your lucky day," and I was getting ready to put him in, and he jumped and threw the hook. And it wasn't a lucky day because that muskie got him and just had him halfway in there and just slam off with him. So,
Man.
See, the first instance that I've ever had of like something catching the fish that I've caught, my dad and I were fishing. We were out in the ocean, but I mean, we were still like, you could see the shoreline, and we were fishing for mackerel, and we caught, I don't know, maybe 50, 60 mackerel, but we only got maybe 10 to 12 of them in the boat because the bottlenose dolphins you'd bring back into just a head because they just.
that's good. That's good.
So,
Yeah, I've had a lot of sharks eat my fish off. So
yeah,
Sharks and cooties.
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, and I did have a shark get I was catching some redfish off or some snappers off a shipwreck out of Destin, and coming up, I think we were fishing in maybe 80 foot of water, and just as you can start seeing the red start coming up, then you just see a big old silhouette just take off. It drug the boat. It was a bull shark. Drug the boat a mile and a half. The captain tracked it from the time we started, and he said from where it started making we started going a different direction. He tracked it, and it went a mile and a half, and we finally, there was four of us that took the rods, and every 45 minutes we were swapping out trying to catch it. So
Crazy. Yeah.
yeah. So where has been, and we don't want to hold you too much longer. We're just going to ask a few more questions if that's all right.
Oh yeah.
So where has been the most enjoyable place that you have ever fished?
Oh my goodness. Oh, so Thousand Islands is unbelievable. It's beautiful, beautiful water. In New York, and everybody talks about the smallmouth, and it is. It truly is. So it's one of those incredible places. Lake Michigan was one of those places that I've really, really enjoyed. Um, and of course, man, I mean, even out of country, if I was ever going to go out of country again, it'd be peacock fishing in Brazil. Just big ones, and
Yeah,
it's so it's special. That's what it is. It's special. So,
yeah,
um, you know, I don't know if I have a place that I can just say this was the best. I mean, I remember doing a show with Jim Murray out of not Columbus, but oh goodness, it's in Georgia, right there. Anyway, it's right there going out of Seminole, Lake Seminole, going north on the
Right.
Flint River, and this guy knows it. Knew every corner, jet boat into the shallows, and we're catching these shoal bass. And the beauty of that river was exceptional. I mean,
Yeah.
and the fishing was exceptional, and the to be with him was exceptional. So that was will go down as one that I'll always remember. So but yeah, I've got you know
So many
fantastic
places. Yeah.
places I've been. Falcon when it was really good,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
Brenton asked, "What is your favorite state for smallmouth?"
probably New York. Okay, I mean it's Thousand Islands is probably the deal of all of them. The I have, however, had an exceptional time on Michigan one time, and just really caught some big ones and just had a blast. So, and that was years ago. So I can't imagine how good they are now. With all the zebra mussels and
Right.
the bait that they get to eat. So
Yeah. Now, when you first started fishing tournaments and stuff like that, was it a big change for you to go from like fishing, like let's say Okeechobee and the lakes down there in Florida? Was it much of a learning curve that you had to go through to learn to fish like a current driven body water?
man, so you're growing up in Florida, I consider you at a huge disadvantage to make it on the tour if you grow up in Florida. And the reason being is they're all natural lakes. We don't have a lot of reservoirs, and we do have a few rivers, but they're not the same.
Right.
um, so you do have the St. Johns River that you can learn a little bit about river fishing and fishing shell beds and stuff like that. Most of our lakes are just natural, round, not very deep.
Right.
So when I went from fishing Florida to going out of state, it was a big learning curve. And I used to go. Jerry Ryan was a professional angler back in the day, and he had Jerry Ryan tournaments and hungry fisherman tournaments, and we would travel and go there just to learn. We went just to learn different fisheries and go to different places, and so that truly helped me speed it up a little bit. But I went out on tour in full time in '84. So for the '84, '85 classic, because we'd start in usually like September, and then we'd go through May, and then you'd have the classic in the summertime. So so I went out. That was my first season, and I just got my butt handed to me, and I didn't do very well. Next year, I made the classic, so I learned a little bit more, and it was really hard. But I made the classic in my second season, so um, it definitely is a big learning curve to go to learn rivers, reservoirs, even what to look for and all.
Right.
Now I look back on it and I like it's really not bass or bass. Once you learn bass or bass, and it doesn't matter if you go to California, you go to Canada, you go to Mexico, they're still bass. They
Yeah.
still operate the same, and they still do. So it's yeah.
Yeah. I can. I can imagine because well, growing up in Nashville and fishing Old Hickory Lake and stuff, and which is part of the Cumberland River, and then also fishing Kentucky Lake. So I mean, I grew up fishing river systems, but for me, like the toughest for me to go and fish a lake is deep clear waters. I have the hardest time with deep clear waters. So
It can be really fun, and there's some beautiful lakes. Well, I don't know how they are now. Joe Cassie and stuff like that in north western South Carolina, and some of those lakes are really really gorgeous.
right.
And yeah, it just you just change techniques a little bit, but that's still fun.
Yeah. Oh, it is. So, have you ever fished Lanier? in
Mhm.
Georgia?
Yeah, lots. We used to fish it every year on tour, and then it just stopped going. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
I haven't been there in years now. But yeah, I actually won a tournament, Operation Bass, before they had FLW. They had the Golden Blend Diamond Invitationals, and these were their first run at professional tournaments. And I won a Diamond Invitational, so I got a little diamond ring out of it. Pretty
Oh,
cool.
nice.
I won it on Lanier. So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and now was back then was Lanier known for the spotted bass?
Oh my goodness, yeah, yeah, big ones.
Yeah.
So
So they I want to go down there and catch my PB spotted bass, and which is just 4.5 pound spotted bass, but around here that's a big spot.
yeah,
So
yeah, that's a
so
big spot anywhere.
yeah. So um, real quick, we had a question asked. I don't know who it was, but they want to know what is your biggest largemouth.
13.6. I caught a 13.5 and a 13.6, and here in Florida, and it's yeah, it's pretty special. That one, the 13.6, I actually caught in uh, repeat. What was it? Professional. Anyway, it was our professional tour that we had. It wasn't BASS. It was like now I can't even remember the name of that one. So, but we had it for a while. That organization was
Right.
around for a while. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was fun catching the tournament and yeah, big fish. I caught one. I'll have to admit to this. This is disappointing, but I had one. I went out to California and I've seen them. 19 pounds. I saw one that was 20 one time. Sight fishing,
Right.
and wasn't able to catch it. But I actually had two on beds one time, and one he is a deep bed, and you just barely see the fish, and the big ones would come in, and there was one that was world class, 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay, it could have been 16, and another one that was 10, just dwarfed by the other one. The big one was huge, and this one was
Yeah.
like in there. But the 10, the little one would go out and I wouldn't see it, but that big one I would see, and then it'd disappear, and then I'd see it again. You get glimmers of it because it was so deep. And I'm fishing, and all of a sudden I'm spending most of the day because I know if I catch that big one, it's going to be my personal best for the lifetime. I'll never see another fish that big. So I'm fishing it, and all of a sudden I get it to bite, and I set the hook, and I drag it up, and we net it, and it's the little one. It's the 10 pounder. It's the only time in my life that it was 10.5 or 10.7 or something. Only time in my life that I've caught a 10 pounder and been totally
Disappointed.
Totally bummed.
I spent 4 hours on one fish and catch the little one, and I didn't even know he come back. I thought he was long gone, But,
Oh man.
Yeah, that's funny. So, well, Shaw, we got one more question for you, and then we're gonna let you go. And but we deeply appreciate you coming on. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
yeah, I always
And
so.
and hopefully we'll see you here at in Birmingham here at the Red Crest, or at the Classic here
Uh,
in March. So
I'll be at both of those. I work both of them for sponsors. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but Norman, take away our last question, brother.
Man, Shaw, it's always a blast being able to sit here and talk fishing with you, and we appreciate it again, as always, dude, coming on and spending some time with us talking fishing. But real quick, before we get into the last, I'm stumbling my voice here. There we go. Real quick before we get into that last question, guys, check our Dick Talk Podcast website out. If you want to find out in advance our guest lineup, our schedule coming up. We typically have 2 months in advance. Our November schedule should be up by tomorrow afternoon. And make sure to catch us. We are live every Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to catch next week's episode. We have Bassmaster Classic champion Randy Howe will be our guest next week. But anyway, Shaw, uh, if you were to have one person to be able to fish with for the day on the boat, now this person could be passed away or still with us, who would that person be and why would you want to fish with him or her for the day?
Well, of course, my first one would be Jesus Christ. That's
Yes.
my Lord and Savior. Would be awesome. If it was just a person to fish with, oh my goodness, I'd love to spend another day with my dad.
That's awesome.
That's
Yes.
probably who
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I don't know if we asked that question to you last time, Shaw, or not, but we've pretty much asked that question the whole time of the podcast. We might not have started asking because, again, guys, he was the second episode that we had. We were fortunate enough to get him to come on the second episode. But, I'd say about 80% of the people say that their dad or their grandfather, they would want to fish with their dad or their grandfather. But then, the next, I guess the next highest person that somebody would say was Aaron Martin. That's who they would want to have, Aaron Martin.
Yeah,
So,
he was such a special guy and a special angler, and just we'd go eat sushi a lot together. He was a big sushi fan, so
yeah. So, but Shaw, thank you again, and I can't wait to see you here at Red Crest and then at the Classic. And
hopefully I'll still have all my fingers.
hopefully so, hopefully so, hopefully so, and we'll find you at whatever booth that you're at, and we'll definitely shoot another video with you. And I deeply enjoy you coming on. I enjoy the passion and stuff that you
It's always a blast.
show,
Always a blast.
and the information that you give on the podcast and what you have told us. Just the stories and stuff is just phenomenal, and it's just been a blessing to be able to have you on here. So, Shaw, thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. I really enjoyed it. So, you guys take care.
You too. So, guys, hope you have a blessed one, and come see us next week with Randy Howe, and hope you live the passion, guys.
Live the passion, guys.